a very quick overview of what we are planning to cover in this course over the next year. Today, we're looking to go over tones 2 to 5, and then Vespers. That's today's goal. Next month's session, to review tones 6, 7, 8, and 1, and to review Vespers again, to fill in all the blanks. Okay? And as you know, the tones go in a cycle of 8 weeks. There are 8 tones. Tomorrow we begin tone 2, that is to say tonight at Vespers tone 2. So that's why we're doing it in this order. So we'll learn tone 2 today, so we sing it, tone 3, we sing it next week, etc. In November, on the 9th, we're going to concentrate on the funeral service. On the 7th or 6th of December, whenever that is, we're going to do a review. All the tones, Vespers, funeral, and we will by that time have the prochemens at all. When I say the tones, I mean the Vesperal tone, the Resurrection tone, and the prochemens. We won't be dealing with prochemens now, but we will then in December. On the first session in January, we'll be looking at Nativity and Theophany services, as well as the issue of how we read in church. In 1st of February, we'll be doing the Liturgy of the Presanctified Gifts. On the 1st of March, we're going through other Lenten services other than Liturgy of the Presanctified Gifts. On April 5th, Holy Week and Paschal services. On the 3rd of May, the Divine Liturgy and the Hierarchical service. Most of us go to church on Sunday morning, and one way or the other we get from the beginning to the end of the Divine Liturgy and nobody gets killed. So I'm not worried about the liturgy too much, but we will go over it in May, beginning of May. And then on the 21st of June, we'll have a general review of everything. So that's how I'm hoping the course will work itself out. But the main thing, you know, as always, is quality, not quantity. So even if we get through half of that, we've done very, very good. The texts. You have this second edition of the Добрий Пастир. I have 5 copies up here for sale. 2 have already been taken. So if anybody wants one, 1, 2, okay, you have to pay my wife though.
I do.
Okay, you have to pay my wife. Okay, 1, 2, anybody else wants to buy one? 3, 4, okay. So Talyushu, get their names, get their addresses, you have to know where to find them. No, you don't have to pay right now. You can pay my wife later. Okay, during the break, you can pay my wife. It's $45 a pop. Okay, so we have the new Добрий Пастир, and we have the funeral book. We're not using the funeral book until November. November is going to be funeral book. Anyone who wants to purchase a funeral book, please let me know. During the break, you can sign up. I'll get them for you and bring them back from Winnipeg. So during the break, there will be a sheet up here, you can sign up. If you have an old copy, the first edition, 2006 edition of the Добрий Пастир, it's usable as well. It's fine. The new one is better. It has accented Ukrainian, for example. It has some expanded portions. But if you have an old Добрий Пастир, you can use that as well. Very important book that you should all have is called The Typicon Decoded by Archimandrite Joe Getcha. He's originally from our St. Sophia parish in Montreal. He is now in Europe. He's teaching at the Ecumenical Patriarchate Center in Chambassay, Switzerland. He's the former dean of the St. Serge Orthodox Institute in Paris. Very good book. Everyone should have it. There's another book by Father Gregory Wolfenden of blessed memory. He died in 2008. He was with the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in the United States. It's called A Guide to the Divine Services. I put it in the material there. That's also useful. There are many useful things in there to have. Other than that, we'll be referring to other books along the way. So, we come to the first point, which is the daily, weekly, and annual cycles of worship. The church, time in the church is governed by 3 cycles. One cycle is the daily cycle. And the daily cycle begins at sundown. As it says in the book of Genesis, there was the evening, there was the morning, the first day. So that's why Vespers is the first service of the following day. So our Vesperal service today at 5 is the first service of Sunday. Okay? And that daily cycle includes the services of Vespers, Povečeria, which is the after supper service, Apodipnon in Greek, after supper, usually called compline in English. Then you have the midnight office, the matins or orthros, first, third, sixth, ninth hours, and then Vespers again. So that's the way the cycle goes. There's one other service that gets inserted there, usually only during Lent, which is the Typica. But the Typica might be used also, for example, in a monastery where they're not having a liturgy. It would happen after the 3rd hour. So after the 6th hour. So it's sort of, you know, the hymns from the liturgy, Psalm 102, Psalm 145, Only Begotten Son, the Beatitudes, etc. Those parts of the liturgy, that's in the Typica. So it's sort of it replaces the liturgy on a day when you're not going to have it. So the Typica under normal circumstances is not used, but during Lent it is used. And we'll talk about that when we get to Lent. The weekly cycle starts, of course, you have the first day of the week, which is Sunday, yes. And, because Jesus rose on the first day of the week. And it goes Sunday in honor of the resurrection. Monday in honor of all of the bodiless powers of heaven, the angels. Tuesday in honor of St. John the Baptist. Wednesday in honor of the Most Holy Theotokos and the Holy Cross. Thursday in honor of the Apostles and St. Nicholas, the Wonder Worker. Friday in honor of the Holy Cross. And Saturday in honor of all of the martyrs and all of the saints. Okay? So we have that cycle. And then we have the yearly cycle. On December 25th / January 7th, we celebrate the Nativity of our Lord. On August 6th / 19th, we celebrate the Transfiguration of our Lord. All of those services that happen once a year, that's the annual cycle. And the annual cycle has two aspects. One aspect is the feasts that are celebrated on a specific date, like the Nativity, the Theophany, the Transfiguration, and the ones that are dependent upon Pascha, on Easter. And so that includes something like Palm Sunday, or Pentecost, or Sunday of All Saints, etc. So that's the 3 cycles that we have. How many people here, and again, we're all friends here, and it doesn't matter. So this is not something either to be proud of or to be ashamed of, one way or the other. How many people here know how to read music? Okay. How many people do not know how to read music? Okay. So for all of you, it's very important to understand how it works, and we will very quickly just go through a very basic lesson of somebody who, okay, can you hand these out? Whoever does not read music, raise your hand and he'll give you a sheet of music paper. So who doesn't read music, raise your hand and we'll talk about that. And, oh, there it is, okay, good. I don't want to bore you, so if you read music, put up with this. But it's very important that we all have a basic understanding. We'll be doing a little bit of this music theory at every session. And there are really good resources available on the internet. You can go on the internet and even go on YouTube for a video to get tutorials on how to read music, what music, how it works. So, Western musical notation is written on a 5-line staff. And you'll find 2 different clefs. For the women, usually, you're going to see what is called the G clef, because it looks sort of like a G, and that's around the G. And for the men, you're going to see an F clef, or a bass clef, okay, because those 2 dots are next to the F. And the reason we have these 2 different clefs is just where the voices sit, okay? So, I don't know how many of you have heard this, but there's a mnemonic device to remember what note the lines are. Who knows what it is? What's the mnemonic device we use to remember what the lines are?
Every good boy deserves
What?
Every good boy deserves
Every good boy deserves favor. So this is the E, G, B, D, and F. So a note on this line is what note? F. Okay. Now, in the spaces, this is easy to remember. F-A-C-E, from bottom up, F-A-C-E, faced, okay? So a line, a note written here is an F, okay? So that's the way it works. These go up, these go down. So F-A-C, as it goes up, and it goes down, okay? So if you don't read music, you're gonna be able to understand whether you're going up or down just by looking at that piece of paper, okay? For the men, the bass clef, this is an F, okay? So that line is an F, which makes this an A, which makes this a what? 2 notes down from F, 2 notes down from D, 2 notes down from B, so G, B, D, F, A. You see how it comes down? 1 from up there, and in the spaces, it's G, E, C, and A, okay? So, whereas this is an F, this is an A, it's a third up. Whereas this is an E, this is a G. So it just, you see how that works? They're just displaced a little bit because of the voices. But again, it's the same thing. This is an A, this is a C. Now, one other issue regarding notes. So that gives you the note, the actual note that you sing, right? You also have to talk about duration. How long do I hold that note for? So, a round note like this is called a whole note. It gets 4 counts. A whole note with a staff, with a line on it, is a half note. Okay, I don't know how if you're all able to see this clearly, but a round note like that is a whole note, it gets 4 counts. A whole note with a stem is a half note, it gets 2 counts. A solid note with a stem, quarter note, gets 1 count. And a solid note with a stem and a flag is an 8th note, and it gets half a count. Please bear in mind that for our purposes, those values, those time values, are very subjective, because our goal in singing in church is not to do the 1812 overture. Our goal is to make the words of the hymns and the scriptures alive for people. So the music is extremely important insofar as it energizes and makes meaningful the words. We have what we call logiki latria. In our liturgy, if you look after the consecration and the priest prayer, it says, how the priest says, how we offer God our slovesna služba, our, sometimes it's translated rational prayer, or rational worship rather, and it's in Greek, logiki, you have the word logos. In Slavonic, slovesna, from slovo. And it's not much of a stretch to see the relationship. If Jesus is the Word of God, and the Word is what we want to pass on to people, that it's not just this little thing composed of letters, the meaning of that we want to give to people, but it is, in addition to that, it's really the person of Christ that you want to give on to people. And so this is really important that we remember, for us, the preeminence of the Word is extremely important. Now there's going to be one more thing about music that we're going to talk about today, and that is the issue of what is called a key. So to know what a key is, you have to know what these symbols mean. This is a sharp, a flat, and a natural. It was very popular when I was in high school. I don't know if they still have these high school yearbooks and stuff, and people sign their yearbooks. Do they still do that? You have a yearbook and you sign it. You'd always have the music teacher writing something like this. Don't be sharp, don't be flat, be natural. Okay? What those signs tell you is whether a note goes slightly up or slightly down. Because from here to here to here to here could be either a whole tone or a half tone. You guys all seen the Sound of Music? You know the play, the movie Sound of Music? You know the song Do, a Deer? Okay, so you can learn all this like that, okay? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? That's called a scale. And that scale, depending on where you put it, will determine what key you're in. So if I start that on an F, there will be a B flat here, and it will be the key of F. If I start that scale on a G, there will be a sharp here, and it will start on the key of G. Don't want to mix you up too much. But you'll see when we get to the music. Because the important thing is the relationship. If it is a do, da, da, or do, da, da, you hear the difference? If it's a whole note, or a whole tone, or a half tone difference. And so, when we go through the music, you'll see it visually, it'll make sense to you. But just to remember, there's a scale, so in the key of C, the scale is like this. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So in the key of C, C is the do. In the key of G, G is the do. So when you see these things, try to remember it that way. And so for us, what you're going to find most important are these three. Do, mi, so, do, mi, so. And if you can get through that, you'll be fine. We'll do some exercises with it later. But if you can get that, you will be fine. You'll have no problems at all. Okay. Next little thing, the octoechos, the 8 tones. Traditionally, this is attributed to St. John of Damascus. Not that he thought it up, but he took what existed at his time, and then he sort of systematized all of it and put it all together. So that's in the 9th century, 8th, 9th century. The 8 tones it's a musical system with 8 different, you guys, any of you ever heard of the ancient Greek musical modes? The Lydian, the Mixolydian, the Dorian, Aeolian, etc. Okay, you've heard of them. The ancient Greeks, and you know for the ancient Greeks, music was something like mathematics, right? And music it's extremely mathematical. It's very beautiful. But for the Greeks, it was like mathematics. It was a system which showed you the beauty of creation, right? How everything worked together, okay? So, they had 8 different modes. And each one of these modes was to evoke a particular type of a feeling or an atmosphere, give a particular type of a message, etc. So when, we know that Jesus and the apostles sang. We know that they sang in the temple in Jerusalem. And they had, they still, the Jews still sing, and they have very, very, if you go back to the original, not the composed melodies, but the original types of melodies, very, of course, Middle Eastern sounding, on different types of scalar patterns. The scale, like we said, that's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you have 8 notes and 12 different tones there. And depending on where you put the half tones, the whole tones, that's what you get. But imagine if you broke that up, instead of into 12 different notes, you broke it up into 24 different notes. So it's a do, re, it's do, just very small increments and differences and the way you do that. So they had a very particular way of singing. The Greeks had a very particular way of singing. They understood music in a particular way. And so when those two things came together, you ended up with this system, which we now call the octoechos, or octoi, the 8 tones. And originally, and still within the Byzantine tradition, the Byzantine music, which we'll talk about a little bit here and there, is different from our music in that the Byzantine music is based on a scalar structure. They have a particular scale. So tone 1, for example, sounds like a minor to us. Tone 3 has a different kind of a feel to that. And it really does come out of that ancient Greek understanding of music, along with the Middle Eastern stuff, which in the 2,000 years since then, what's happened is you've got a lot of other things mixed in there as well. But the important thing to remember is the Byzantine music is different from our music. Because their 8 tones, it's on a scale structure. Our 8 tones are on a melodic structure. So for our tones, we have a melody. So tone 1 has a particular melody, tone 2 has a particular melody, tone 3 has a particular melody, etc. And in some cases, especially with the older music, you can actually sometimes see the relationship, but for the most part, all of that has been lost. For the most part, it is strictly a melodic reality for us, okay? So, this book is Ukrainian Octoi, published originally, it was translated in Poland between the wars, and it contains all of the services you need from tones 1 through tones 8 for Saturday night, Sunday morning, and Sunday evening, okay? It's just for what they call the Resurrectional services. There's also the entire octoechos, which has for every day of the week. So tone 1 has different hymns for every service for every day of that particular week, and in tone 2 and tone 3, etc. Okay? Our need is going to be strictly for this course for the Saturday night Vespers, because we're not touching the Sunday morning, the Orthodox service, nor the Sunday afternoon. But the point is that if you know this, you'll be able to sing any of those services. Okay? If you know the tones, you'll be able to sing any of these services. The way the tones work, did everybody run off music? Who does not have music with them? Okay, if you don't have music, Franco has been kind enough to run off some packages of music. Oh, are these? Oh, they're upside down. Okay, if anybody needs music, there are 6 of these. Okay, we have 6. If you don't have music, you can take one. What I would ask you to do is, we'll take the most difficult one first. If you can go to Lord, I Have Cried, in tone 4. Господи, взиваю до тебе, голос четвертий. Okay? Господи, взиваю до тебе, голос четвертий. Lord, I Have Cried, in tone 4. For our purposes, the tones work like this. You have melodic phrases. You have melodic phrases that are then put together and that repeat. So tone 4 for Lord I Have Cried, the Vesperal melody, has 3 introductory phrases, 3 regular phrases that repeat. The introductory phrase does not repeat. Then you have the regular phrase that repeat, and then there's a special ending. So there are actually 7 different melodic phrases here for tone 4. So this is the most complicated one, other than the one I'm going to give you for homework. So let's just, if you look at tone 4, I'll sing it in English, I'll sing it in Ukrainian, and you see those middle, in Ukrainian it's один, два, три, A, B, V, and in English it's A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you have the 3 introductory phrases and the other. But actually tone 4, because it has so many things, it doesn't lend itself to do that only at the beginning. So if you can turn to the dogmatic, which is on page 2 there. Page 2 in the English and 3 in the Ukrainian. The prophet David, Prorok David. Okay, so go to tone 4, go to the dogmatic, the prophet David, Prorok David, and just follow along and see. I'll do it first in Ukrainian, then in English. Пророк Давид, що через тебе, Богородице, Богоотцем став, у пісні тому, хто величність тобі дарував, так провістив про тебе, стала цариця праворуч тебе, бо тебе матір'ю заступницею життя показав Христос Бог, що зволив милостиво від тебе без отця людиною стати. Що образ свій у пристрастях сотлілий одновіти, і овечку в горах заблудлу відшукавши, та на плечі взявши до Отця принести, і з волі своєї до небесних сил прилучити і спасти світ, маючи велику і багатую милість. Try to just follow along there with the different musical phrases. I'll do the introduction on this hand and the repeating ones on this hand, and then I'll use both hands for the ending. The prophet David, through you the ancestor of God, spoke of you in song beforehand, to him who has done great things for you. The queen stood at your right hand. For he, the God who was well pleased without father, to become man from you, declared you to be mother, source of life, that he might fashion his own image corrupted by passions, and having found the lost sheep wandering on the mountain, and laid it on his shoulders, he might bring it to his Father, and by his own will unite it to the heavenly powers, and save the world. O Mother of God, Christ who has great and rich mercy. Okay, so you see how that works? You have little musical phrases that repeat. And then you may have an introductory phrase. You may have a special ending phrase. And that's what we have to learn. If we're going to be chanting in church, we have to know the tones. And as we'll see, a lot of the actual hymns are based on this. Добре. So that's the point about how the tones work. Small phrases that repeat, and you might have a special ending, and you might have a special beginning. So as we go through each tone, we will be underlining that. But your homework for today is, with one other thing that I'll tell you later, your homework for today is, for next month, to learn to sing tones 2, 3, 4, and 5. Melody line is all you need. What I have written for the soprano line, that's all you need. And that involves At Lord I Have Cried, and that involves the Tropar melody. So that you have 4 weeks to learn 4 tones, to learn 8 different melodies. It's doable, okay?
Repeat, please.
Huh?
Repeat that homework.
To learn tones 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Lord, I have, Господи, взиваю, Lord, I have cried, and Trapar melody. What? Yeah, and it's all on the website. It's all on the website. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Dobre, so, it is now. We started late, but we're doing okay. It's just before 2 o'clock. One really important thing is how to sing. So we're going to do a little bit of vocal technique as well. Because if you sing only from here, you're going to have problems. Okay? So when you sing, you want to support your voice. Has anybody ever heard the phrase sing from your diaphragm? You ever heard that? Oh, yeah.
Sax player.
Uh-huh. So, stand up. Stand up. When we breathe, we don't want to move our shoulders when we breathe. When we breathe, we want to breathe from here. So what you want to do is fill your lungs, but expand them into your abdomen, okay? So you're pressing out here, and then like that. So just take a deep breath, and expel it. Just using this muscle, okay? And deep breath, and out. Okay, now put your hands on your hips, okay? That muscle there, expand it, push against your hands. Can you feel that? Okay? When you breathe, what you want to do is you want to use that at like a bellows almost, okay? You don't want to breathe up here. You don't want to use the top of your lungs. You don't want to do this. Don't do that, ever, okay? When you breathe, it also helps, by the way, if you dance, if you run, if you do athletics. This is a really good way of breathing. You want to expand your lungs down and down. So just a couple of times. In, and then get full up with air and push against your hands. Really push the muscles there, okay? Push against it, and then slowly let it out, pushing with these muscles in. And push everything. And again, in, and then out. So now, we don't want to hyperventilate. As we have a doctor here, so we're okay. What to do now is breathe in, and just say ah on the way out. And when the note is coming out, just ah or la or whatever you want. Keep pushing with this while it's coming out, and in that way to try to control it so that it goes out slowly. Ready? And breathe in, and okay. That's how you're going to support your note. You're going to support your note like that, and that's a good exercise to do at home.
Now, the other one, put some light on and blow on the light. If you blow the light, you're not good. Like this.
What we have to do. Don't say you must have. So that's called supporting it, okay? Now, from the other end, you don't want your voice to go up into your head. You know, some people have really thin voice, it comes up here, right? It comes up here. You don't want that. What you want to do is, you're supporting it here, try to keep your, don't let your head come back, but keep it up, and send, what you have to do is raise your palate and try to send the sound up, out from here, through the front of your face, okay? Try to send the sound there. So that rather than, you get an airy kind of a thing. You know what I mean? It's coming out like air. You want to control it so it comes up, you know, it's really going to be concentrated here. You want to concentrate it. And I'm explaining it really badly, but if just do the out of your nose, support it, come in, ready, breathe in, and can you feel this vibrate around here? Do you feel that vibrate? No? Okay. You have to raise your palate in back and let it come out. So you don't want to close the sound off in the back of your throat. You don't want it to come out either only your mouth or only your nose, but you want that entire opened up so that it comes out right through there. Okay? So just try that again. Breathe in and Any vibration? You get that? You feel that? Because what you would like to do is to have, you don't want it to go airy on you. You don't want it to be very thin, and you don't want it to be cut off so that it becomes very, how do you say, stifled. You want to be open. So whenever you're singing, just think of that, to sing open, but again, don't get too caught up about it. The more you sing, the better it will be. If you find your throat is getting tired, that means you're not supporting. And if you find you're getting really nasal or airy, that means you have to open this up and concentrate the sound, like Mr. Sobolewski said. I mean, there are all kinds of really good exercises you can do. If you really want to learn about this, take voice lessons, because I'm not a qualified voice teacher. But there are specific things, very basic things that we really do need to do. Whatever you do, remember when you sing, you can't overpower, okay? And no matter how much noise we're making, we still better be able to listen. It's really important. Okay, so let's just do a couple of exercises. We'll come back, we talked about this do, mi, so. So let's just do that, just to warm up a little bit. We're gonna sing do, mi, so, mi. Oh, I didn't tell you what to sing yet. You don't know what to sing, you have to wait. Do, mi, so, mi, do. And then I'll go, and then we'll do it higher and higher. Ready? We'll start this note. Do, ready, and do, mi, so, mi, do. 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 Now, as we get higher, one little trick. If you're going higher, you're getting top of your range. When you hit the top one, if it feels uncomfortable, raise your eyebrows. Do, mi, so, mi, do. 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 Another trick is just open your mouth. Especially, if guys, when you get lower, just open your mouth. But it helps when you go higher too. Just relax. You have to relax it. Na, do, mi, so, mi, do. Do, mi, so, mi, do. So you see how that works. Now, you know this. So it's important. Have a seat now. It's important to know. Key of C, what is do? Key of C, what is do?
Do, C.
C. Key of D, what is do? D. Key of G, what is do? G. Key of F, what is do? F. Okay, so that when you look at these notes, you'll be able to make sense of it. So, at this point, let's start out with the tone to tropar melody. It starts in Ukrainian polizy shov, and in English, when you descend into death. Tone to tropar melody. Okay? Tone to tropar melody. Take a good look at it. Who can tell me what the structure is? What's the structure of the tone to tropar melody? What? A. Oh, not quite. What? No, the structure of the tone, the structure of the melody for the tone. What? A, B, and zakinchenia, and a special ending. So tone 2 has the following structure. Tone 2 tropar melody has the following structure. Melody, phrase A, phrase B, which repeat, however times you need, and then a special ending. And it always has to end on the special ending. So that's important. So, if you are going to sing tone 2, and you have to break up the text, by the way, in November we're going to talk about pointing texts. We're going to talk about pointing texts. What we talk about how we break up the text. So if you have a text, you have to sing it in tone 2. What is the minimum number of phrases you can have?
3.
3, exactly. Because you need melody A, melody B, and the ending. Well, you can actually do it in 2. 3 is better. Now, what about tone 2? Is it possible, to do an even number of phrases in tone 2? You could. You could do phrase A, phrase B, phrase A, and then the ending. And if you need to do that, that's okay. But it's always better to try to do it so that it goes A, B, and so that the special ending follows after phrase B. So, let me just play this to you. Is the most complicated Vesperal melody. Tone 3 is the most complicated Tropar melody. Okay? And your homework, besides learning tones 2, 3, 4, and 5, is, you notice I haven't put any markings here for phrasing. You have to go home, and next month we're all going to decide what the musical structure of tone 3 is. So that's your other part of your homework. So you know all your homework now. Tone 3, Tropar melody. You have to figure out what the musical phrasing for it is, okay? So let's just try this phrase by phrase. First in Ukrainian, then in English. Нехай веселяться небесні. Нехай веселяться небесні. Нехай радуються земні. Бо сотворив державу силою своєю Господь. Подолав смертю смерть, первість померлих став, із безодні аду визволив нас, і подав світові велику милість. So there in that last line you see you have a quarter note, a half note, a quarter, eighth, 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 half, and whole. So all those types of notes you need to know, quarter, half, and whole, they're all there. And if you think of them in this way, a quarter is a regular beat, a half is longer than regular, an eighth is shorter than regular, and a whole note is a long one. That's how you want to relatively look at them. Because if you sing this stuff according to a metronome, you know, like a quarter is 1, a half is 2, whole is 3, eighth is a half, right? If you do it, you get what one priest in the States I know calls typewriter music. You get typewriter music. It's Господи, взиваю до тебе, вислухай мене, тінч, вислухай мене, Господи, тінч, Господи, взиваю до тебе. Okay, that's why it's really important. You have to know the words. You have to know the words, and you have to use the words. You have to use the music to emphasize the words, and not become anal retentive about rhythmical note values. Okay, it's really important. Okay, so that's tone 3. Let's do it in English. Tone 3, Tropar melody. Let the heavens rejoice. Ready? And Let the heavens rejoice, let the earth be glad. For the Lord has shown strength with his arm. He has trampled down death by death. He has become the firstborn of the dead. He has delivered us from the depths of Hades, and has granted to the world great mercy. Tone 3 is the best. It's the best. Okay? And in the Kyivan music, and in the Byzantine chant. Not the Galician, but in the Kyivan and in the Byzantine too. The Byzantine melody is beautiful. It's the tone that we use for the Trapad for St. Demetrius. Okay, so let's quickly go through all of this again, and then we're going to take a little break. So let's go just back to tone 2 Trapad, tone 3 Trapad, tone 2 Vespers, tone 3 Vespers, and then we'll have a little break. Okay? Tone 2 Trapad. Коли зійшов ти до смерти, when you descended to death. We'll sing it once in English, one in Ukrainian. Tone 3, once in English, one in Ukrainian. Tone 2 Vespers, once in English, one in Ukrainian. Tone 3 Vespers, once in English, one in Ukrainian. Then we'll have a break, okay? Holy, this will start. Holy, ready, end. Holy, зійшов ти до смерти, життя безсмертне. Тоні ад умертвив ти сяйво божества. Holy, жінко мерлих і святих птицевних воскресив ти. Всі сили небесні взивали, життя дав ще Христе Боже наш, слава Тобі. In English. When you descended to death, O life immortal, you destroyed Hades with the lightning of your divinity. And when from the depths you raised the dead, all the powers of heaven cried out, O giver of life, Christ our God, glory to you. Tone 3 Trapad Ukrainian, нехай веселяться. Нехай веселяться, ready, end. Нехай веселяться небесні, нехай радуються землі. Бо сотворив державу силою своєю Господь, подолав смертю смерть, первість померлих став, із безодні аду визволив нас, і подав світові велику милість. Same thing in English. And let the heavens rejoice, let the earth be glad. For the Lord has shown strength with his arm. He has trampled down death by death. He has become the firstborn of the dead. He has delivered us from the depths of Hades, and has granted to the world great mercy. Okay, let's go to Господи зиваю, tone 2. First in Ukrainian, then in English.
Which one is it?
Господи зиваю, голос другий. Господи, ти слухай мене. Ready, end. Господи, взиваю до Тебе, вислухай мене, Господи. Господи, взиваю до Тебе, вислухай мене, вислухай голос моління мого, коли буду молитися до Тебе, вислухай мене, and in Ukrainian, same thing. I'm sorry, and in English, same thing. But in and Lord, I have cried unto you, hear me, O Lord. Lord, I have cried unto you, hear me. Attend to the voice of my supplication when I cry unto you. Hear me, O Lord. And now tone 3, Ukrainian. Do, mi, so, do. Господи, вислухай мене. And Господи, взиваю до Тебе, вислухай мене. Вислухай мене, Господи. Господи, взиваю до Тебе, вислухай мене. Вислухай голос моління мого, коли буду молитися до Тебе. Вислухай мене, Господи. In English, and Lord, I have cried unto you, hear me, O Lord. Lord, I have cried unto you, hear me. Attend to the voice of my supplication. When I cry unto you, hear me, O Lord. Now, before we break, go to the Stichiri of St. John of Damascus, which you should have at the back. Oh, where did I put it? Yeah, here. Okay. The Stichiri of St. John of Damascus, Stichiri Ioana Monaca, and go to tone 2, which is on page 2. And tone 3. The Stichiri Ioana Damaskini, we haven't touched them yet. The Stichiri of St. John of Damascus. It's the funeral stuff. It's from the funeral service. Okay? Stichiri of St. John of Damascus. Stichiri of St. John of Damascus. Now, during the funeral service, before the scriptural readings, after the canon, we have a series of 8 Stichiri of St. John of Damascus. The tradition says that they were written by St. John of Damascus. Some of you know his life. He was a very, very highly placed functionary in the caliphate there in Damascus. So he worked for the Muslim government, basically. He was a high government functionary. And he decided he was going to become a monk. He left that all behind. He went into the monastery. But he was a very talented man, okay, very gifted. And among other things, as I mentioned earlier, traditionally the systematization of the octoekos is attributed to him. But the story is told that there were a couple of brothers in the monastery with him. And one of the brothers died. And the one that didn't die was very, very distraught over the death of his brother. And so St. John went and composed these hymns for the funeral, well, for that guy's funeral, okay, as a sort of a gift to comfort the brother who was left behind. And then, as the story goes, his Yeronda, his elder, the elder monk responsible for forming him, got very upset and said, "You did this without a blessing. You don't do anything in the monastery without a blessing. Away with you." and he wanted to kick him out of the monastery. And all the other monks came up and said, oh, you know, elder, don't do that. You know, he didn't mean any harm, and it was a good thing, and he's trying to comfort his friend. And he said, no, I won't hear it. He says, please, give him a penance, anything, just don't send him away. He said, if he wants to stay here, he has to clean all the latrines out by hand. And of course, St. John of Damascus being, you know, this guy who was like, had everything in the world, you know, like what they say, silver spoon in his mouth and everything, right? All the monks got very upset. They thought, oh, well, that's horrible. He's never going to do this. He's out of here. So they went and they told him, they said, you know, your elder said you can stay, but you're going to have to clean out all the latrines by hand. He said, great, thank God. And he went and he, you know, did that, and his elder was very happy, and he stayed there, and happy ending all over, okay? So that's where these stichira come from. The reason that it's good for us to learn them is, you may have noticed, the tropar melodies, they all have a different text to them, right? Nechai veselyatsia, right? So you can remember Nechai veselyatsia, and that tells you tone 3. If you remember tone 3, Nechai veselyatsia, and you start singing it, you got it, right? But for the melodies at Vespers, Lord, I have cried, it's the same words all the time, right? So it's difficult to memorize them. If you can't memorize them by words unless you use these, because these tones, these stichira rather, go through all the tones. So if you want to memorize a particular phrase of text to help you remember the melody, this is the way you do it. So before we break, we're going to sing tone 2 Vespers on the stichira of St. John of Damascus, and tone 3 Vespers on the stichira of St. John of Damascus. So let's do the St. John of Damascus tone in English first, and then in Ukrainian. So do you all have it? It's on page 2 with the St. John of Damascus. It is, woe is me, how great a struggle the soul endures at its parting from the body. Woe is me, how many tears it sheds, but there is none to pity it. Turning to the angels, it supplicates in vain. Stretching out its hands to men, it finds no one to help. Therefore, my beloved brethren, reflecting on the shortness of our life, let us ask Christ to give rest to the departed, and to grant our souls great mercy. In Ukrainian. О, як тяжко душі з тілом розлучатися, як тоді плаче вона, і нема, щоб хтось помилував її, то ангели в очі підводячи даремно вона молиться, до людей руки простягає, але немає допомоги. Тому, улюблені браття мої, помисливши про скороминуче життя наше, просімо у Христа упокоєння для спочилого і душам нашим великої милості. Yeah, one of the big problems that we have is, I think we've all probably been singing in church for most of our lives. We're used to one particular text, and getting used to a different text is gigantic. That's why it's important to go over this at home, okay? Tone 3, let's do it in Ukrainian. It's right there, right where we ended. End. Все суєта людська, що зникає після смерті, не лишається багатства, минає і слава, бо приходить смерть і все це зникає, тому до Христа безсмертного взиваймо, переставленого від нас у покой, в оселі, де всі радіють. And in English. All human things are vain, which endure not after death. Our wealth will not remain. sing, our glory will not go with us upon the way. For when death comes, all these things will disappear. Therefore let us cry to Christ, who is the Orthodox. Give rest to our departed brother, and make him dwell with a joyful. Okay, so we have gone through tones 1 and 2, the Resurrectional, the Vespers. We have done the verses of St. John of Damascus. Are there any questions? Any questions?
The difference between Kyivan and Obikhod?
And what? Obikhod. What we're doing here is Obikhod.
Okay.
But generally speaking, in a general framework, you'll see people referring to this as Kyivan music, as opposed to Galician music. For the Ukrainians, that's a big thing. Whereas if you want to be technical about it, these are the Obikhod melodies, which are the usual melodies, the simple melodies. Kyivan, when we get to tone 6, remind me that, and I'll show you the difference. Okay? What else? Any other questions, comments, observations? No? Yes? Coffee break. Okay, so it's about quarter till. Let's start back at about 3:05 at the latest. Okay?